So I'm at Tata Lit Live with Bina Ramani and Sapna Bhavnani, who've just had a session on United We Fight. So do you want to tell me a little bit more about that? What was, I'll start with you, Bina. What was the main theme and what was your point of view on that?
Well, we have three of us. One was written a book about rape, and Sapna's been doing theatre very successfully on the subject of rape, with particularly the Nirbhaya story, which covers not just the shocking, occurrence of rape, but what goes on after the system, which is sometimes worse than the actual rape. Mine is the book that's being launched. That brought this about, and it's dealing with a corrupt, corroded system that the individual, whether it's the victim of rape or the victim of, I was a witness in the medical Jessica Lal murder case, and dealing with that against the system, which at the time included media, police, the justice system, the corrupt politicians, and the one individual person that's up against those mountains of power opposing you.
Okay, so Sapna, if I had to sort of encapsulate it, it's a fight against a system.
Yes, well,
which is
and it could be a fight about yourself, taking a beating from that system, the society forcing you to be quiet, and you fighting against it. Because at the end of the day, this is what rape survivors or victims go through also. It's the society that makes you silent, and you're afraid that if I stand up, all the blame is going to come on me. So it's pretty much fighting against a system, in many ways.
So your play was triggered off by the Delhi incident in December? Was that the starting point for that?
Yes, it was. I think that the director of our play, Yaël Farber, she is from South Africa, which is also rampant when it comes to women molestation and rape. And when she found out that this had happened in Delhi, she posted on Facebook, because she was destroyed by what had happened, but also amazed how India as a country has stood up, because she maintains that in South Africa this happens so often, but the country does not stand up. And the fact that the country had stood up amazed her, and she was very proud of India for doing that. And that's when Purna reached out to her and was like, I think that you should come to India and do a play about this, because I think the women here are ready to take a stand, ready to tell you their stories, and Jyoti being the catalyst for that.
Bina, that also happened, that there was a precedent in that sense of a country sort of taking up a case in the Jessica Lal case as well. So is that something you're speaking about in your memoirs? I know these are your memoirs.
Yes,
they're about you, but that played a large part in them.
That's the book.
Yes, Bird in a Banyan Tree, that's what it's called. It will be out in December?
That's right, the first week of December.
So was that also something that surprised you, the kind of sort of vigilantism that we saw in both these cases from our society as a whole?
You see, the case happened about 14 years ago, and a lot has changed since then. It was, 14 years is a long time in India. The system at the time, the media, the power of the news channels didn't exist. I think there was just NDTV.
Just NDTV.
And in that period, in the next following 1 year, all the other channels opened up. So it had hit the dailies as the most sensational case ever. I believe no other case has remained on the front headlines for an entire year. This ran for one entire year on front page headlines, only to be put into the second and third page when the cricket scam came up. The match fixing. Yeah. So it hurt us a lot, because it just put us into the underground and in sheer shock, because our place happened to be the place, sadly, where this incident happened. And the cops who come to investigate initially, we have learned from experience, they come and take a decision then and there whose side they're going to take the case in favor of. And when there's a powerful side which is loaded with wealth, that's the side they belong to. And we were the only opposites. There were the other 2-3 other small witnesses, that were very quickly bought out and, terrorized as well, whatever the case, 4 of them. And we were the last ones left, and they tried every which way, and then they managed to succeed in turning the media against us, making us look like culpable in, for having aided the murder. So the media, it was very exciting for the media. Bina Ramani, who was then pretty much running lifestyle events in Delhi. I had 3 boutiques. I was running the so-called first shopping mall of Delhi. I was running the most exciting restaurant, and it was holding amazing parties, and the who's who of the world would find their way there. And now suddenly it had become the place where this sensational murder takes place, and I became the perfect scapegoat and amazing meat for the media. So for the first 6 years we became the butt of this, and that gave them a lot of shield to do all kinds of cover-up possibilities. There was certain media that was fighting to keep them in the forefront, but the system was very pliable.
Was this the sort of trigger to finally sort of write your memoirs, to put
Absolutely.
your side of
yeah, and then at some point, after I was saying earlier, 6 years, 7 years later, very quietly a judge must have been taken care of, because immediately after he announced this, he announced that they have been acquitted in court, and the next day he got promoted to the higher court. So it became like a big scandal, and it got notice of the whole country, and that's what we were talking about. Media then suddenly turned around and got the real truth, and they now wanted to know. The new slogan line that came out at the time was called "Nobody Killed Jessica Lal,"
yes,
because they went free. And from there on started the most difficult time for us, because now we were the only ones. The others had been brought out. Now they had to finish us. They had found freedom that was going to be snatched away, and it wasn't something that they were going to allow. And they were richer than God. They were so wealthy. They stopped at nothing. They bought out the entire system, and now they had to demolish my reputation, because my statement was in court, and it was that statement which was going to be the one used in the High Court. It was the same statement I gave the first time. And that statement, in order for it had to lose its credibility, and to do that, they came after me, and they threw me in jail to give me a reputation that cannot have any value. So that's when I started to write the book.
Sapna, for someone who also, you lead your life in the public glare, you're also part of a highly publicized reality show. How difficult is it to have your life under the scanner all the time, and how do you deal with that? With perceptions, with maybe personal attacks, where people sort of start saying, okay, she looks this way, or she dresses this way, so she must be like this.
Yes, this is exactly what the talk was about. And this was, I started the conversation by talking about when I was 14, and I used to wear the shortest of dresses and ride a motorcycle, talk to all the boys, and society as general would see me as that woman and used to call me a whore in Hindi, which sounds even more worse. And I was amazed, because at 14 years old you don't even know what that is. This is in the 80s, and you're just like, why are they calling me this? They're calling me this because, oh, I'm different, I dress like this. And it was then at 14 when I had decided that I was not ever going to look like a traditional Indian woman. Whatever power or whatever I could do, I had to alter this image for myself, because being Indian has nothing to do with the look and this image of an Indian woman, which is so ingrained in our heads, because if you look a certain way, then you must be a nice woman. We have our Sita. No, it's true. And even if you look at in our culture, we have Sita or Kali. I'm sorry, where's the in-between woman? Yeah, like I'm not that, and I'm not this either. Where is the in-between woman? Even in our culture, that is not represented. You had to be somewhere big to be placed on a pedestal. No, I'm sorry. And so this is how I started my journey at such a young age. And the reason I got inked was also because of that. Like a lot of people get inked to cover their scars and to hide their memories. Mine was to remind me. So every day I look at myself and I know, okay, today you're going to go out and you're going to get judged again. And it's okay. So I've done this to myself in many ways.
Okay, so you were part of a reality show where we saw you 24/7. You have written your memoirs where you're putting yourself out. Okay, where do you draw the line? What do you want to keep private, if at all? Or is that a risk you're taking now that look,
yes,
it's all
a
out
risk.
there now?
It's a risk for sure. I just came to a point where I just felt the story has to be told. When I wrote that in jail, that's already 7 years ago, I shelved it within a year. I wanted to taste life again. 6 years had been a long time to be under pressure. And then it started again about 3 years ago. I just felt the urge to tell my own personal story, why it happened to me. Over and over again, people said to us, it could happen in any farmhouse. Someone can come and kill it, and the next day it's forgotten, or third day, no one remembers his name. Why did this happen? Because it's you. This haunted me constantly, and I needed always to keep explaining why, and there was no real explanation, and so then that got me into writing my own memoir, my life from childhood. It's all in there. There's everything, and my children are not exactly pleased about it, nor is my family.
Okay.
They out of love, they want to protect you. So I just feel that my life had become so public, and I got so bashed by the world at that one particular period, and the story never completely found a proper ending. It didn't really. It's been an amazing cathartic experience for me. I've never felt better about it, and I'm ready to take on anybody who wants to question it. In fact, I'm hoping that it'll inspire women and young people everywhere. I had it pretty tough from a very young age, and I found I stumbled. I found my ways. I went there, the thorns and the roses and all, and I think I would have. It would have been my mission to have told it. I really believe in it, that it's a story worth.
So it's closure
telling.
for you, in a sense.
Closure in that sense. I enjoyed writing it a lot, but I have a new mission, which is again, over here where we connect again. I help victims of rape, young from age 13 on down, in Delhi, as a volunteer with the group. And the good news is, the two sensational ones were, one was the Nirbhaya case, the other one that followed 2 months later was the young 5-year-old girl Gudiya,
Yes.
who was very badly assaulted
yes,
and all that.
yes.
We've been particularly helping her and a few other girls of the same age, but this one is the very happy ending that we just found out last month, which I'd love to share. That we got her into one of Delhi's, upper crust schools, the Delhi Public School in Gurgaon. We got her a little place to stay, which is now going to be her parents permanently, and her father has a job of a Mali.
Okay.
And when I met him the first time, it was about a couple of months after the tragedy. He was shaking like a leaf. He couldn't speak Hindi. He was from Bihar, a real little village dweller who'd lost his way into the world. Now they are all very happy, and the little girl's very happy. I'd love to see. I think we should let this be known so that they know that there is a future if you pursue it.
When you go out with your play, Sapna, what is the kind of audience you get, and what's the kind of audience response you get? Who is the audience that you're going out to?
When we were in Edinburgh for the Fringe Festival for an entire month, in our audience of 500 people, we'd at least have 150 to 200 people every day after the show crying, just so touched by the emotion that they felt during the watching the theatre, and also wanting to tell you their stories, or pretty much just kind of hugging you. And this is what I was saying, that I'm not a very huggable person. I never was. I really am telling you the truth. I have this, America maybe did this to me, but this space boundary where I don't like people to invade my space. And like, please don't, don't do that. And even when after the show, I would stay back and put the props away instead of going out there and hugging these people, because for me it was not something that I was capable of doing. One day I was just looking through the window to see, okay, I think everyone's gone, all right, safe to cross and go to the dressing room. And I came out, and before I knew it, there were like these 20 people who had been waiting to specifically meet me, and just came and gave me the biggest hug. And I just stood there. I think now I understand Shah Rukh Khan, because it was just like that moment, and I was just like, wow, there was so much love that came that my way. It just made me a hugger. I understood
The power of a hug.
The power of human touch, necessarily. And it's not dirty. Like in India, it's like a male touching a female. It's like dirty, and it's really not. And based on that, I started this thing called Flower Power. And what we do now is go to NGOs where there are women who are sexually abused, ex-prostitutes, hijiras, whoever you might be, HIV positive, no judgment. But we just use our human senses, which is to listen and to touch and heal people. So this is what I have been doing. I have just been going to meet people, showing them I give a damn. And they just, at the end of the day, people don't want money. They don't want fancy clothes.
They want
just
acceptability.
Want someone to love them, someone to listen to their stories. And this is the biggest present that I have been gifted with from doing this play, and going out and doing this has been such a beautiful eye-opener for me. It has changed me completely. So yeah.
Okay, and so really thank you so much, Bina and Sapna. We look forward to reading your book. I do hope it brings out your story to the widest audience possible. Sapna, do we ever see you writing?
Yes, a lot of people ask me the same question, because
I remember you would write.
I know,
would write a
my columns, and
Mirror.
everybody still to this day asks me, why aren't you writing your book? And I'll tell you, for 6 years I've been writing my book. I've been on chapter 1. Now that chapter 1 is so good, I'm afraid of writing chapter 2. So I have now decided, don't worry, I'm writing a book of only chapter 1s. Coming your way very soon.
Okay, we look forward to
story
that.
already. But my chapter 1 remained that way for about 5-6 years too.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, and then it suddenly starts to flow.
Yeah.
Something triggers it.
Was it okay, last question really. When you're writing about yourself, how difficult is it to be honest, because see, if I wrote about myself, I would be a little flattering to myself, I think. I would want to come across rather, smelling of roses.
Sure.
So how tough is it to have an objective view of yourself?
It is difficult. I'm trying to remember, I've made some very stupid, naive mistakes, which I talk about particularly because I want others to see it and avoid that kind of thing. There were a lot of mine in my early life. But it was those mistakes that strengthened me in the end. But let me see, later did I make mistakes? Yeah, my weaknesses and things. Yes, yes, I have it there. My failures are there.
They're there.
Yeah. And then each failure takes me on a higher leap.
The failures make you look good?
I may get judged. That's okay. I'm a human.
Fine.
I mean, at the end of the day, we are all human, and yeah.
All right.
I know that my biggest critics are going to be my family.
Okay. Thanks so much, Sapna. Thank you so much, Bina.